Let's start off with some of the questions that I had. You've already mentioned in 2016 you started. It doesn't sound that long ago until you realize it's 2026, and a lot of the things that have been promised still haven't come true. There's this thing that keeps going around in a circle that AI, in its original conception, is something that goes back to the 70s, actually, which I think would
50s, yeah,
or 50s, which fascinates a lot of people. I think there's also discussion.
Well, it goes further if you go back to Frankenstein. I mean, humans have always been quite fascinated by these ideas of creating machines that can do what we do.
I think most people who are aware of or who see AI think it's something that's just been around for the last 2-3 years, in the sense of a life cycle, right? Every product or every technology goes through life cycles. Where do you see the AI situation now? I would assume that we're not as advanced as we think we are. Where do you think we are in relationship to the beginning, and what are some of the maybe next phases we need to prepare ourselves for?
Well, there's a couple of different ways to answer that question. The sort of simplest way is as a technology, where we just say that AI is kind of like any other technology, and we're at, if you like, the C prompt, just the command line, and we haven't got to the GUI. Nowhere near it, right? So that's one frame.
We're not, as far as you're concerned, that would be the relationship where we are in development right now?
Yeah, because this is where our design element, our design side of it comes in. Because what the GUI did was completely fundamentally shift the way that you had this relationship with the machine. And we have not got to that point, right? We are still prompt response, set things up, have them run, come away. It's pretty basic from a design perspective. You can see that there are ideas that people are having about the machine doing the design dynamically. Google's had a couple of demos out on that recently. But the way that we think about that next stage of design is we need an entirely different design philosophy that allows us to really create meaning with these machines, right? They have ideas of their own. I can put the scare quotes around it. I won't. They do have ideas of their own. The science is relatively clear on the way that circuits form in an LLM and the societies of thought that happen inside an LLM quite spontaneously. So an LLM has kind of a mind of its own. We're really early here. It's still inside its own training data. It can't go outside that in the sense of sort of a William James intelligence of being able to handle genuine novelty, whatnot. There's a boundary that's moving and growing. But nevertheless, if you imagine that in not too many years from now, there'll be more people who understand that these LLMs are intelligent, they have ideas, they want to communicate to you. And we don't have any design element for that at the moment. And all we do is get stuck in these arguments about, well, it's not intelligence, just a stochastic parrot. Well, it is really intelligent. It's going to take over the world. Now, we're very meta-modern in this. We sit in this middle where we say those two ends of the spectrum just can't be right. There's something in the middle that we need to discover. And design is one way of discovering that. So, yes, we're so early. You can imagine what it will be like when you can move into this more dynamic, relational base with a machine. We have a relation. Yeah. So that's one way of answering it. Another way of answering it is kind of similar. It's even more simple, which is, well, it is simple, that you take patterns from the past where when new technology comes, including when it's threatening, that we have this moment of efficiency where the practitioners who understand the craft will grapple with the tool and make it work within their own workflow. So the one we like to talk about is Final Cut Pro. When that came out, the people who were those editors made it more efficient and put it into their workflow. But it took a few years, non-experts, newer people, up and coming innovators to go from efficiency to innovation. And we're definitely seeing this efficiency to innovation shift happening now in some fields, not everywhere. The complicating factor with AI is that there's a question: is this different than any technology we've ever had before? And if so,
and how far do the historical analogies of the railroad and industrialization compare, and what do we have to be?
Across the board, 100% across the board. And the reason that we founded the Institute is because we have this question: is it different? And the research that we do holds that as the core question, because it might be that AI is just the next technology and it rolls out on the patterns of previous technologies. We have cognitive science that tells us that can be the case. The extended mind theory, we've always offloaded to tools, for example. That's one way of thinking about it. The economics creates more jobs than it destroys. They're just different. GDP, up we go with a little bit increase in productivity. Sort of 10% would be a massive number, but not thousands and thousands of percents that exist in the abundant, the post-scarcity dialogue. So we hold this position of, is this different? If so, how, and what's the different role for humans? As we're excited by it. We think it's really interesting, but there's a little bit where we could say it's precautionary principle. Right? What if it's different? It could be really different. We just don't know yet. I don't think we know. I think it is, but I can't prove it.
Yeah, but you can.